There are roads in life that we can walk together. But there is also one road that each person must walk alone. It is the road back to oneself. In a life filled with constant haste, people often get used to looking outward. We search for recognition, for success, for a place to lean on, for something that makes us feel complete. Yet the more we seek outside ourselves, the more exhausted we sometimes become. Because in the end, what makes us peaceful or restless has never truly depended on the outer world alone, but on the state of our own mind. That is why the Dharma talk, the road everyone must pass through, is not merely a teaching, but more like a bell of awakening. It awakens us to a profound truth. No one can practice for us, no one can awaken for us, and no one can walk the full inner journey in our place. Others may love us, support us, and show us the way, but whether we walk or not, whether we awaken or remain lost, whether we let go or continue to cling, is ultimately our own choice. Perhaps the hardest thing in life is not overcoming others, but having the courage to turn back and face ourselves. To face the anxieties we keep hidden. To face the wounds we have never named. To face the desires, attachments, and comparisons that silently pull our mind in every direction. And only when we become still enough to look deeply can we begin to understand why we suffer, why we have not yet found true peace, and why even in the midst of abundance there remain empty spaces that nothing seems able to fill. When the Buddha was still Prince Siddhartha, he lived in luxury, power, and abundance. Yet even in the midst of all that comfort, he saw the deep unease of human life. Old age, sickness, and death spare no one. And from what he saw and heard, a great question arose within him. Is there a path that can transcend suffering? That question became the beginning of his spiritual journey. It reminds us that awakening often begins in a moment of honesty, when we no longer want to live superficially with our own life. And what human beings truly seek is not only freedom from suffering, but also a kind of happiness that cannot be shaken by circumstances. Worldly happiness is often borrowed. Happiness. We are happy because we are praised. We are happy because we have money. We feel peaceful because everything is going well. But whatever is borrowed will sooner or later change. And when outer conditions change, the human heart easily wavers with them. Only the happiness that arises from within can truly endure. That is why meditation is so important. Meditation is not merely sitting still. Meditation is returning. It is learning to pause after the noise. It is learning to listen to ourselves. It is looking deeply into the mind to recognize what is binding us, what is making us restless, and what needs to be released. When the mind becomes less agitated, we begin to taste a peace that is quiet, gentle, yet deeply real. A peace that does not need to be displayed to be complete. A happiness that is not borrowed, but shines from within. But in the end, this path is still the path of personal responsibility. Others may offer us light, but we must be the ones to open our eyes. Others may offer reminders, but we must be the ones to take the step. If the mind remains closed, stubborn, and tightly attached to old habits, then even if the Dharma is very near, peace will still feel very far away. True transformation begins only when we stop waiting for a miracle from outside and decide to turn inward to transform ourselves. Whether we move quickly or slowly on the path of awakening does not depend on how many favorable conditions life gives us. What matters is whether we have the courage to look honestly at ourselves, whether we have the patience to sit with the movements of the mind, and whether we have the sincerity to live more deeply with our inner life. No one can live a peaceful life for us. No one can breathe a mindful breath for us. No one can let go, in our place, of the things that weigh heavily on our heart. So if today you still feel tired, uncertain, or unable to find a resting place within yourself, perhaps this is the moment to pause. Pause to breathe more slowly. Pause to listen more deeply. Pause to return to yourself. You do not need to begin with anything grand. Just a few minutes of sitting quietly. Just one deep breath. Just one moment of honesty with your own heart. From such small beginnings, a great path can open. Because the road everyone must pass through is not somewhere far away. It begins the very moment we stop running from ourselves. The very moment we dare to slow down. The very moment we choose to return. To understand ourselves, to embrace ourselves, and to transform ourselves. And from that moment on, peace is no longer something distant, but becomes a flower blooming from the soil of a quiet and awakened heart.